Okay, it is Friday. We are on the last day of our first full week of this. You guys are doing awesome and really great. I've been so proud of you guys this week. It is difficult starting something new like this, but you guys have been rock stars. And today is the last day of the first week. We're going to do a social studies lesson. I wrote up here our goal for the day. We're going to hopefully be able to I can identify landforms. And landforms is kind of a funny word. You may have heard it before, you may have not. A landform is basically kind of like a defining characteristic of something you see on the earth. So like something different than just looking down your street and just seeing some trees, some woods. These are some big things you notice on the earth. And it'll make more sense once I start showing them to you. So we're going to learn a few different ones. I have some pictures. I'll show you guys what they look like. We'll talk about like what some of them are or what they even mean. And then I'll show you this little matching game we're going to play afterward. So the first one I really want to show you guys is a hill. Now you might be like, what's so special about a hill? So a hill is a kind of landmark. Because again, when I look at this picture of a hill, you can kind of see this is just kind of what your typical earth looks like, right? Just some flat ground. It's kind of just nothing special. But the hill is a landform because it's something different. It alters the earth and kind of, it's unique, right? So a hill is basically when you're thinking of what is a hill, it's just a raised part of the earth that's smaller than a mountain, right? Like I wouldn't call Mount Rainier a hill, right? It's a mountain, it's big, it's massive, but I have kind of a hill when I drive up my driveway. I wouldn't say that's a mountain because it's not very tall, not very steep, it's just a hill. It's not a mountain. So like this one, exactly, it's tall, it's big, you can definitely see it coming out of the earth, but it's not a mountain, so it's a hill. This one is another example of a hill. It's tall, it's a mound coming out of the earth, but it's not as big as a mountain, it's a hill. So, great job. That's our first one. The next one I want to kind of talk to you guys about is a volcano. Volcanoes are so cool. Check out this picture of this volcano. So cool, right? So a volcano, basically, as cool as they look, if we were to kind of talk about what exactly is a volcano is just an opening, because right at the top of this, it looks like a mountain or a hill, but at the top of it, it's an opening into the earth. So down inside of the earth, there's all sorts of things, there's rocks and different kinds of soils, all kinds of layers in the earth. And what this hole at the top does is it allows some of that builds pressure inside to come out. So a volcano is an opening where lava, rocks, and gas can come out. In this picture, you can really see the lava pouring out for sure. And then the gas would be like in these clouds of gas. And there's definitely probably some rocks in there as well. So that's what we think of as a volcano. Here's another picture of a volcano. So see, here you can really kind of see in there, you can see all the little kind of lines showing things like shooting out. Those will be like rocks and things, the lava coming down and the gases coming up top. So that's all coming from that hole in the earth to let all that stuff come out. Pretty cool. The next one, the landform we're going to look at is a lake. Some of you might be pretty familiar with a lake, some may not. A lake is kind of cool. It's just a body of water, right? Just water. And what's special about a lake is it's surrounded by land. So lakes, right? They don't touch the ocean. It's a lake. And lakes are surrounded by water. Sometimes they have rivers that come from them that might flow to the ocean, but a lake isn't part of the ocean. It's its own body of water on land. So this one's a pretty good picture. You can see there's land all around it and the water in the middle. Here is another picture of a lake. Here you can see this lake even kind of looks like it has a beach to it almost, kind of. But it is still surrounded by land and it is a body of water. So that's kind of what we'll think of as a lake. The next one, this one's kind of cool, an island. An island's almost like the opposite of a lake. A lake is water that's surrounded by land. An island is a little piece of land, sometimes big. Islands can be big, but the land is surrounded by water. So see, this piece of land, it's not connected to a big piece of land like the United States where we live. It is a big piece of land. But this island isn't really connected to any other land. It's just a little island surrounded by water. Here's another example of an island. This one has a piece of land very close to it. Might even be another island, but it still is surrounded by water and it's a piece of land. So that's an island. Next, this one's kind of cool. We have some around here. It's a valley. Valleys are really pretty. Look at that. They're surrounded by hills or mountains. See how there's mountains kind of in the back? And then some smaller hills in the front. So that valley is that low piece of land down next to the hills and mountains. It's usually kind of in between them. It almost looks kind of like a bowl, like the mountains or the hills kind of cup and have this little valley in them. So see, all surrounding it is all of this high ground, but the valley is this low piece down here. Sometimes they have rivers or streams going through them like this one does, if you can see. And they usually are just kind of flat sometimes, and they're just low pieces of ground surrounded usually by mountains and hills. That's kind of what creates that low piece of ground. Here's another one, a valley. This one has some steeper, higher mountains around it, some hills. And it's this low piece of grass down in here. Not just grass, there's trees and stuff, but it's this low ground. And it does look like this one might have a creek or a river that goes through it as well. So a valley is that part down there, that low piece of ground that is not high and raised up like the mountains or the hills. Here's the last one. Now we just talked about a valley, right? This is a canyon. And we'll talk about what's the difference, because they kind of look alike, right? So a canyon is kind of like a valley down here, right? But the difference between a canyon and a valley is you see these big, steep edges in the ground, right? And it's pretty narrow. Some of those valleys, look at the difference between these pictures. The valley is pretty big, right? There's a lot of grass down here, a lot of space. But a canyon is pretty narrow, pretty skinny, and it's got really steep, really high walls of soil and dirt around it. So a canyon, you wouldn't really see a canyon if it was only this tall. It wouldn't really be a canyon, right? And a canyon usually always has a river or a stream running through it, because believe it or not, those rivers and streams are what help create a canyon over a lot of years. So I'll show you another picture and see again, really not super wide, just wide enough for, again, that river to flow through the middle, but really high, super steep walls of the canyon and not super wide. So it's basically really similar to a valley, but much more narrow, much taller, and usually always has a river and stream in it, as opposed to a valley, which may or may not. All right, so those are our different landforms. We have our valleys, our canyons, and remember our difference between those. We have hills, we have lakes, we have volcanoes, and we have islands. So those are like the 7 ones we're going to focus on today of our landforms. It's going to be great. We're going to do a little activity. I'll show you how to do it. That's going to be kind of matching. We're going to have the words and we're going to match them to the pictures. So you'll have a couple pictures to choose from and you're going to remember what made a volcano a volcano. How would I be able to tell a volcano in a picture? Or how would I be able to tell a lake? We're going to look at it. All right, let's go. All right, friends, so this is called Label the Landform. It's going to be your Friday's paper. So at the top of your paper up here, if you can see, it'll say Friday. You'll know you're on the right one. Should be also the last one on your packet. So label the landform. Let's read the directions. It says, cut and paste each landform next to the correct picture. So on the side of your paper right here, you will have a bunch of these words like this. They'll be all along the side here. What you're going to do is, you're going to cut them all out. I have all of mine cut out, so you might want to pause the video or take a second and cut yours out. And once you've got all your words cut out, we're going to paste them and label them with your glue stick onto each section that it goes onto. Right here is the picture you're going to match the word to. So each one of these will be one of the landforms we talked about. So real quick, I'm going to walk you through them so you can kind of see what you're working with. So this first one up here, one thing I noticed about this one is it looks like maybe some mountains or something, and it's pointing in between the two mountains right here. That's the one it's talking about there. Next one, this is some water in the middle, in case that might be kind of hard to tell. That's water in the middle of that, land. So what one would go there? And then here, we've got a piece of land, and it looks like it's surrounded by water. So what word would I paste there? This next one, we got some steep. It looks like this is some steep kind of slopes, some steep mountainsides, rocks that go into a river at the bottom, and it's pretty narrow. Then down here, it looks like, ooh, this one looks to be like there's a hole at the top or an opening of this mountain, and there's stuff oozing out of it, maybe like some lava or something. And then down here, we have some regular grass, it looks like, or something down at the bottom, and then some raised kind of mounds of earth. So I'm going to use these kind of pictures as clues to tell me which landform it's talking about. So I'm going to start by doing the first one with you together. So again, I was looking at, there's these mountains, maybe some hills. This one looks like it's smaller, and they're pointing down in between. So can we remember which picture had hills or mountains in between? And remember, you can go back in the video if you need to see, but I'm pretty sure it was a hill. In between some mountains would be a valley. Now, for this purpose, I'm going to show you the picture again so you can see. So here's our valley picture. Remember, it's some mountains, and they're surrounding some low ground. Does that look the same as that? I think so. So I'm going to find my picture card label that has valley on it. And one of the really simple ways to figure out the word, if you're not sure how to read it and just say valley, you can always sound it out, remember? So I'm going to look and say valley. Oh, yeah, that looks like how I would sound out valley. Perfect. So I'm going to put some glue down on my paper and glue down my word valley. Now you're going to do the same thing all the way down, using each picture as a clue to help you figure out what is that picture showing me, which landform. All right, you guys are going to do awesome. I can't wait to see them. This is your last one of the week. Yay! Have a good weekend, guys.